Hi, this is David White coming once again from Austin, Texas, and talking about what we call the perfect life, the life of Jesus Christ. We're, as you know, using the book of Matthew, starting with chapter 3 and then going through chapters 10 to talk about or look at what Jesus said and did. Today, we're in Matthew chapter 4, verses 3 and 4, dealing with the temptations. Last time we talked about the reasons for the temptations. This time and next, we're going to be talking about the specific temptations themselves. Now, to read the scripture, it says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit." This was immediately after his baptism. "He was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, 'If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread.' Jesus answered, 'It's written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God.'" Now, why did he not have the stones become bread? In every generation, seems there's a buzzword. When I was a teenager, plus or minus 5 years or so, the buzzword was panacea. Everybody who wanted to show how smart they were worked in the word panacea. Then for a time, a few years ago, the buzzword was paradigm. No speaker worth his fee would dare get on the podium and not work the word paradigm into his talk. And then there is the last few years. The big buzzword has been leadership. Now we'll talk in a few minutes about what leadership means today. But let's look at what's going on here. The main reasons for Jesus' testing or temptations was for him to winnow out what he didn't want to do in doing his life's work. And one of the things he didn't want to do was to use his supernatural powers selfishly, use them for himself. You know, there are two kinds of leaders. There's the kind of leader who finds a parade and runs and jumps in front of it and takes the adulation. Then there's the type leader who sees a need that needs to be filled and figures a way to do it, taking the lumps and working with his helpers. In our modern day, I think it's fair to say that Martin Luther King Jr. was that type leader. And I think if you look around, you can find plenty of the other types of leaders. Jesus did use his supernatural powers for selfishness here. He could have taken the easy way and turned the bread and the stones into bread, but he didn't do it. Now, we're obviously not told that there weren't other sources of food for him, but he refused to use his powers just for himself. And by extension, later on, after he had going out into the world. He refused to use these supernatural powers to get people to follow him. He never offered to follow me and I'll feed you. Follow me and I'll give you a lot of stuff. He didn't do that. He was honest as a real leader should be. Now, there were a couple of times, we're told, where he fed one time 4,000, I think 5,000 the other time. Maybe they were the same, I don't know. But they are on record in the Gospels. But you'll notice the thing about those times were the people had already come and they were in trouble, and he helped them out. He didn't use the lure of feeding them to get them to come there in the first place. He never did that. He just told them the truth. Then there is another reason he didn't feed people, as it were. Jesus knew that people were hungry. And we know that people are hungry today. But he knew that the only way in the world to feed them is to change their hearts. He could have fed people for the day and fill their bellies for the day. But the way to stamp out hunger then and now is through men's hearts. There is much, much more than enough food, for instance, grown in this world every year that it would take to feed the population of the world. But as long as men tend to be greedy and hoard stuff for themselves, the world's not going to get fed. It's not going to get adequate housing. And the list could go on. And so he knew that it would just be folly to feed him today, and then when he moved on, they'd be left wanting. Next time we're going to talk about the other two temptations that he turned down. One was to jump off a cliff and show people that he wasn't hurt. We'll talk about why he turned that down, or why I think he turned it down. And then he turned down the offer to advance by retreating. And we'll talk about, not that it needs much talking about, but why an honest leader, an honest teacher, had to turn that down. So until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.